Hey guys, this is Tim from Dimmdrive.com. I am going to show you a video of using Dimmdrive with DOTA2 and using Dimmdrive's less RAM option. And the less RAM option essentially will allow you to use a smaller amount of RAM as your Dimmdrive than what the entire DOTA2 game is. So for example, if you only have 16 gigs of RAM and DOTA2 is larger than your 16 gigs of RAM, then the less RAM option is what you're going to want to use. So let me just put this notepad over here that we're going to do math in a little bit later. And let's first of all start DOTA2 normally, and we're going to record it. And we're going to see how long it takes just to get to the main screen. And then we're going to go and do the same thing with Dimmdrive. Now to make this video possible, I have set DOTA2 to run in windowed mode. And basically that's it. So we're going to hit the start button real quick, and then we're going to hit play. And then now it is launching. We hit escape right away. And then we're going to hit pause the moment it gets to the screen here. All right, so 16 seconds. Now we're going to quit out of that there. So this is DOTA2 on my normal hard drive, and this is a 2 terabyte Seagate hard drive. It's not running anything. It's not running my operating system. It doesn't have any videos. It's just the drive I have dedicated to my Steam games. And we can actually verify that by going to the properties, local files, browse local files, and we'll see right here my, actually it's a 4 terabyte drive. Sorry, let me fix that. The Dota folder is DOTA2 beta for whatever reason, but let's just close that. All right, now we're gonna close this, and let's just minimize this. And here's Dimmdrive. You run Dimmdrive, and it'll give you a list of all your different Steam games. And let's turn Betrayer off, because we're not gonna be doing that. We're gonna be doing DOTA2. And even though it says DOTA2 beta, that's the name of the actual folder that it's in, so just ignore that. We're going to do the wrench button. We're going to configure the less RAM option. And I spoke to some DOTA2 users and tried to figure out how much RAM DOTA2 will take. And I've learned that it averages 2.5 gigs of RAM, but we're gonna give it up to 3.5. Well, let's give it up to 4 gigs of RAM for DOTA2 to run. That's RAM that it's going to need to actually run in itself. Let's pretend we have 16 gigs of RAM total. Let's say our OS equals 3 gigs, and we're going to say DOTA2 is 4 gigs for DOTA2 when it's actually 2.5-ish. You know, it can spike up and down and so on. So we're going to just say for OS. Actually, let's be a little bit more accurate. Let's say 3 gigs for DOTA2. That gives an extra half a gig of room to move. So that equals 6 gig total. So that equals 10 gig for Dimmdrive. So we already have Dimmdrive right here configured for 10 gigs. I have it set to my Y drive. It really doesn't matter. We're going to go into here, click the wrench. We're going to make sure less RAM is enabled. And we're going to go to configure. Now it says here, available DG size is 10 gigs. The game size, the actual directory size on my hard drive is roughly 9.5 gigs. For the sake of this video, let's actually trim it down. Let's make a little change here. Let's say 4 gigs total, so 7, and that leaves us 9 gigs for Dimmdrive, just so we can select the files that we want to have. Now, we're going to skip the EXE. You generally don't want to, if you're going to do the less RAM option, you usually want to skip the EXE. And it's so small, it's actually very tiny. The only directory that really matters for this game, DOTA2, and I dug into it a little bit, is the data directory. None of the other stuffs really matter. Now, when you go in the data directory, you can see all these different files and so on and so forth. We are going to set everything, but if you had less RAM, less than 85 or 8.5 gigs, then you could actually go into here and be a little bit more specific of what particular files you want to add. we're just going to click on everything for the data directory. Let's click the bin directory as well. And that's basically it. So we're going to click this button here. We're going to hit close. We're going to notice that it's now 9.3 gigs. We have 9, so we're going to go up here. We're going to make a little change again. We're going to get rid of these directories. Let's see, just there. And what Dimmdrive does is it adds a little bit of padding onto the actual directory. 9.2 gigs, that's close enough here. Dimmdrive adds a little bit of padding just in case the files should auto-update. I know Dota 2 and games like World of Warcraft and a lot of games, the game itself will stream files and update the files on the fly. Dimmdrive adds a little bit of padding to enable that file size changes. And Dimmdrive synchronizes the files back to like my F drive automatically, which is why that happens. So 9.2 gigs, that's fine. We're going to hit close. So we've got more than what we need. Let's make this say 9.5. And we're going to add 1 extra gig for Dota 2, so that's fine. 9.5 gigs, we're going to set this 9.5. We just enabled Dota 2. We're going to click the on button. Now what Dimmdrive is doing right now is it's taking the files from my F drive and it's putting them on the actual RAM drive. And so let's move this down here if we need to do a little bit more typing. So for example, my F drive right here, what Dimmdrive does is it grabs the Dota 2 files directly from my Steam directory. So let's go into Steam here. If we go into Steam and click on this and go to properties and then go to local files, browse local files, you'll notice that on my F drive we have all the Steam files for Dota 2 listed right here. Okay, so let's make a change here, and I believe we set it to be the Y drive. So if we go to my Y drive here, it's called Dimmdrive, and again, if we go into Dimmdrive, we set it up to be the Y drive. Go to the Y drive here, and we'll see an in progress folder being built for Steam. And Dimmdrive, because Dimmdrive integrates directly into Steam, it knows where the files are at, and it knows what the ID is, it knows what the game name is, and everything like that. So now when we go into Dimmdrive, the Y drive, you can see all of these different files, which are what Dota 2 actually is. Now, if we go back into the browse local files for Dota 2, you'll notice that a lot of these files have this little arrow button on them. So let's just pick a directory here, the config directory. You'll notice that the config directory for your Dota 2 is now pointing to your Y drive, which is your Dimmdrive, which is right here. So this links to Y blah 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 CFG. So when Dota 2 runs on your normal, when you run Dota 2 from Steam, or if you run it from Dimmdrive or a link or a shortcut or whatever, it'll actually be accessing the files on your RAM drive right here. Now you'll notice that there's some other files, config.dd.presync and so on. Dimmdrive automatically keeps, automatically real-time synchronizes files from the RAM drive back to your actual hard drive. So if the game updates anything, if you save any files, do anything like that, your files will be automatically synchronized. And you have a pre-sync directory here, which is just kind of a built-in fail-safe. In case your PC should crash in the middle of doing whatever, you have the actual files here backed up on your normal drive, which is a really big thing when you're using a Ramdisk. If your power gets cut out or whatever, you won't lose those files. So let's close this here. Let's close this here. So now if I were to run Dota 2 directly from Steam, if I were to hit this play button, what will happen is Steam will actually access the files that are on your RAM disk. And that's because of that linking that we just showed you earlier. So let's minimize this. Now we can run the game directly from Dimmdrive just by clicking this play now button, or we could run it directly from Steam. So let's do it both ways. Let's run it from Dimmdrive first, and then we'll run it from Steam just to give you guys a little bit of a demonstration. So I'm going to hit start, and I'm going to click this as fast as I can, just like we did before. You notice the Steam window just popped up. I forgot to hit escape, so we might be a little bit behind here. So we're just waiting for it to load. All right, so we've got roughly the same. Let's close this here, and we're gonna hit the button a little bit faster this time. I forgot to hit escape, so notice it's loading from Steam. We hit escape, and then we're gonna hit the pause button as soon as it loads. All right, so we've got 13 seconds versus 16 seconds. Now, the one thing about this example that isn't, here, let me close this. That's just the loading screen. So we've shaved off 3 seconds of time from the loading screen. Now, I don't play Dota 2, so it'd be hard for me to actually go into the game and see how long it takes to actually load a game. But, so 3 seconds just from the loading screen. The loading screen does it's probably the more minimal when it comes to this game. So let's write that down. 16.9 or 0.7 seconds on 4 terabyte drive, and we have 13.9. Let's get this really accurate. 16.89 seconds on the 4 terabyte drive. 14.998 seconds on Dimmdrive. So we'll say it's close to 3 seconds faster. Now, I launched it from Dimmdrive. We're going to launch it from Steam just so you guys can see that it's the same. And by the way, before I do that, you'll notice here that it says file sync. When I launched it, Dota 2 must have updated its config.cfg file. I don't know what it updated it for, but this shows that it synchronized it between Dimmdrive and then your actual normal F drive. So if I logged into the game and changed my config, none of that stuff would be gone. But now let's launch it from Steam, wherever Steam is. All right. So we're gonna hit the clear button, and then we're gonna hit play as fast as we can. Actually, here, let me hit play and then hit start, because this is a little bit more of a distance to move my mouse. Okay, there we go. Oh, we messed that one up. I forgot to hit the escape button for the sound. So we're gonna let this load, and then we're gonna do it again. I keep on I don't actually play Dota 2, and I keep on forgetting that it has that Valve load screen. So let's do this again here. All right, and we're gonna hit escape right away. And then we're gonna hit the pause button the second it loads. And I'm guessing it's gonna be right around the same time. All right, so the same here, roughly the same. Or let's do using DD. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Let me close this. Quit. Using DD, and then it was 13.386 seconds on Dimmdrive using Steam. So you can see that the Dimmdrive and Steam basically load it faster. Now, let's say you had tons of RAM. Let me just minimize this. And let's say you had tons of RAM and you didn't want to go through and select individual files of Dota 2 to enable in your RAM drive. Just click More RAM. More RAM will automatically do the whole game. And then you just click close, and you want to make sure that this is, the appropriate size. So you'd set it 10 or 11. And that's basically it. So just the loading screens. So let me just write this down here. Just loading screens, you have that much of a speed increase. Now, let me show you guys one last thing. Let me show you guys a benchmark. So let me click this off. Let's just set this to 5 gigs. Enable it. This is going to be pretty much instant. Yep, since it doesn't really have to do anything. And let me show you guys a benchmark. Let's see here. Crystal disk mark. All right. So we're going to run a benchmark on my F drive. Let's just do a quick one here. Oh, it's already set up. So we'll do a 100 meg one. Let's just hit all. Now, my F drive is actually a really fast 4 terabyte Seagate hard drive as far as mechanical drives go. So let me put this over here. Let me just show you guys what that looks like on a mechanical drive. And while that's running, we're going to load up Crystal Disk Mark over here. Now, let me just put this over here. A thing to keep in mind is I am recording video. And because I'm recording video, I'm actually recording a 20 megabit per second video. Because it's a 20 megabit per second video, my system is going to go a little bit slower than it normally would. Now, that's probably not going to be reflected in something that's slow for speeds, but something that's very high in speeds, it probably is going to be reflected. So just keep that in mind. And here's our F drive. Actually, we're getting really decent speeds, 130 to 150 megabytes per second. For a platter-based hard drive, that's really, really good. I'd be very happy with those speeds with this drive. Now, as soon as it finishes, you're going to see me run the benchmark on the Dimmdrive drive. So remember, the left side here is my platter-based drive. The right drive here is my Dimmdrive. So you'll notice Dimmdrive is going to blow these away. So when you're playing a game and having very intense amount of activity, the two things that are really important, based on my experience, are your 512Ks and then your 4Ks. So your 512Ks, which are the middle one here, those are often going to be, and even up to your sequentials, those are going to be your heavy hitting, accessing, multi-gigabit size giant graphic files, like your huge graphic files. Now, these 4Ks are going to be your smaller files. Some games use lots of individual graphic files or lots of individual APKs or WAV files or other sound files, things like that. So you have your giant hitting data transfers and then your small individual ones. So you'll notice 130 to 150, and then your 4Ks are right around 1 meg. Now we're going to do the Dimmdrive one. The same thing, I think we have it to drive Y. So you notice here, basically a 5 gig size. We're going to do the same tests. And this is going to be on my Dimmdrive. So you should see a pretty significant difference in speed. Now, this won't be the peak speed because I am doing a lot of video recording. For example, if we take a look at how much CPU I have in usage here, here we go. You'll see lots of CPU being used because of the video recording that I'm doing right now. Yeah, you notice camera recorder is using up to 30%, 27, 29% CPU, which is a lot. And then, the rest of my operating system. So my speeds definitely are going to be dragged down a little bit. So we notice so far our sequentials are up to 7,000 megabytes per second. So that's 7 gigabytes per second compared to 131. So let's bust out a calculator here. And I'm probably going to fail at math, but let's do 7053 divided by 131. So 53. Let's put this down here. Benchmarks 53x faster than hard drive in sequentials. So let's do sequentials, and our 4Ks. Let's see what this is. Our 4Ks are probably going to be hundreds of times faster. Oh my God, that's almost 1,000 times faster. So, wow, that's more than I thought it would be. So, 955 divided by 1, well, it's basically 950 times faster. 950 times faster than HD. That's impressive. I thought it would be a little bit lower considering I'm recording a video. So, basically that's it. If you're using Dota 2, or really any other game, but this is for Dota 2. I had a question on my forums of how to set this up with Dota 2. But if you're using it for Dota 2 or whatever game, you can see just from the loading screen, again, about 3 seconds faster. And benchmarking, you can see it's staggering faster. And again, this is just the loading screen. The actual game itself, I imagine, would be even more so. And the thing that Dimmdrive will do is your graphics are just going to pop on the screen faster because as you're PC tries to retrieve that data from your hard drive here, if your PC tries to, let's say, draw a giant explosion or something, it's got to grab that data. And if it takes a second and a half to grab that data and then render it and so on and so forth, or if it grabs that data instantly, it's going to make those graphics just pop on your screen a lot faster. It's going to make maps load faster, game saves faster, transitioning in areas. If you've ever played Skyrim and you notice when you enter a house or enter a dungeon and so on, Dimmdrive, it almost changes the game around. The game feels so much more immersive. And that's why I built this. It's just for gamers. Anyway, so that's Dimmdrive of Dota 2. I hope that helped. If you have any questions, please go to forums.dimmdrive.com or just click on dimmdrive.com and go to the forums, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have. Thanks for watching this video.